So good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the previous session, we have covered the course content. That means the topic which will be covered under this subject, and we have discussed a brief overview of what are the topics which you are going to study in the subject of ADA. So today we'll start with some basic concept of uh, algorithms. See, the word algorithm is not unknown. You might have heard it many times that what is an algorithm. So it's not a new word. Can anyone tell me what is your conception about algorithm? What do you mean by algorithm? Yes, anyone?
Algorithm is a step by step of solving a problem.
Good. Uh, So right, basically it's a way of solving any problem, and that way is defined in a very formal representation. So there is an algorithm everywhere because when there is an action, there is a way to perform an action. There are always some standard steps associated with it. So if you take an example of car driving, so, is there any algorithm in driving a car, or let's say driving a bike? Yes, anyone? No. Yes. So, if I want to define an algorithm for driving a bike, then what are the steps? What is the first step?
First, you have to start the bike.
Obviously, the first is to start the ignition. Then, if it's a bike with a gear, then what is the first step?
Knowing about gears.
If it's a bike with a gearbox, then what is the first step? Yes, anyone?
We have to change the gear from neutral to first gear.
No, you have to change before starting a bike, you have to change the gear from first to neutral, if it is. So in general, if I want to define an algorithm for driving a bike, now what is the first step?
Set the gears to neutral.
No, the first step is your understanding. What is the type of the bike? So you have to first get the type of the bike. If it's a geared bike or it's a without gear bike. So you have to first identify whether you are driving a Honda Splendor or you are driving a Honda Activa. So the first step is to get the bike type. Then comes the if condition. What is that if condition? Yes, anyone?
If gear is present, then make it to neutral, and if it not, then directly start the car bike.
Right. So if there is a bike with the gearbox, then you have to first make it a neutral. Otherwise, you can continue. So then next comes you start the ignition. Then again, based on the type of the bike, you will have a different steps to perform to run a bike. So basically, if you observe everything around you, there is an algorithm everywhere. The only thing is, if you want to make it computational algorithm, then you need to think from the flowchart or similar kind of a perspective. So basically, the job or the objective of this subject is to understand there is a problem. Problem is been given to you. The objective is to formulate the problem first, then find out the way to solve that, and then find out what is the better way to solve it. So this is about the entire subject. Let us now first focus on how to formulate a problem statement. So as we know that if we continue with the discussion of the same thing, that same analogy, that algorithm for driving a bike, then there is one input to that algorithm. And what is that input according to you? What was the first step we have done? Yes, anyone? Yes, you know the answer actually, if you understood the question. The first step of an algorithm was to get the type of the bike. That means the type is an input to my algorithm for driving a bike. So basically, any algorithm, if you observe this diagram now, any algorithm is basically a well-defined computational procedure which takes as input some value or set of value. So here in our case, when you write an algorithm for driving a bike, then there is one input that is called bike type. It can be a gear or without gear, or you can take an input as is gear. So it's a Boolean now, true or false. It depends on how you represent it. It depends on how you formulate your input data type. If you consider that data type is a Boolean, then I will say the name of that input will be is gear. But if you consider that data type is a string, then I will say that name of the input is type, where the value of type can be gear or without gear. So any algorithm, forget about this bike driving algorithm, any algorithm you take, it will always take some input or series of input. That means the set of input values. Then it produces always some values or set of values. In our case, what is the final outcome? Outcome is it produces the velocity, because ultimately you are riding, you are driving, it means that you are running. So if you formulate it, if you want to represent it, then you can say the speed. I think the speed at which you are driving your bike, that can be the output or the outcome of your algorithm. Now here the difference between an algorithm which you observe everywhere around you and this one is that this algorithm, the algorithms which you are going to study, are actually aimed to solve a specific computational problem. So here obviously we are not going to discuss the algorithms about our let's say a digestion system. Human body has its own metabolism. You have a nervous system. All of this system has their own algorithms. But here we are not going to discuss those type of algorithms. The objective of our discussion will be based on the computational problem statement. A computational problem statement means the problems which can be solved by using or by doing some computations. So now if you put all these things together, then the definition of algorithm goes like this. An algorithm is a well-defined computational procedure which takes as input some value or set of values. It produces some values or set of values, and which is aimed to solve a specific computational problem. So this is one way of defining an algorithm. You may find multiple ways. So let us discuss what are the basic characteristics. What do we mean by characteristic? Characteristic means that how it looks like, or how it what is the form of that thing. So what are the attributes associated with the algorithms? So the one of the first and fundamental characteristic is it should solve the specific problem. It should solve the given problem. You can't write an algorithm for a problem which, or you can't say that it is an algorithm unless and until it solves the problem. So unless it solves something, then it becomes an algorithm. So the first characteristic is it should solve the given problem. Second is, to solve that problem, it should not take infinite time and space. When I say time and space, there is always one word which comes in our mind, that is Albert Einstein. But here, time and space is with respect to the computational resources. So here time means computation time and space means a memory. So it should not behave like, or it should not happen that the algorithms which you are creating to solve specific problem, it goes infinite to solve any problem, or it requires infinite amount of memory to solve it. So that should not happen. So you must have some finite amount of space, that is a computational memory, and time, that is a computational time requirements. The third characteristic is it should produce output in case of given unknown input. So let me give you a very simple example. What do we mean by this third characteristic? Let's say you have written an algorithm for adding two numbers. So the input to my algorithm is two different, distinct or same numbers, but that should be two numbers, number 1 and number 2. And the job of an algorithm is to add these two numbers together. So ideally, if I give some input, let's say 5 and 10, then what should be the output from this algorithm?
15.
It should be 15, right? Obviously, it's straightforward. But let's say now I am giving an input as Ajay Devgan and Akshay Kumar. Then what should be the output?
Error.
It should give an error that it's an invalid input. So that is what do we mean by this third characteristic. It should always produce an output. It should not get hanged. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि आपका जो algorithm है वो hang हो जाए, मतलब ये क्या आ गया. So that should not happen. You should always validate the input whenever you are writing any algorithms. So that is the third characteristic. It should produce output in case of given unknown input as well. And the last one is it should be mathematically provable. So you should always be able to prove it mathematically. We will not focus on these fourth characteristics more, because almost all the computational or algorithms which are solving or which are targeting for any computational problem, they are always mathematically provable, because ultimately you are making a computations. So unless you are not generating the answer, then and then you should not, or if you are generating an answer, then you should not be worried about its proof of concept for that particular case. So these are the four characteristics of any algorithm. Then the next is how it appears, means what is the form of any algorithm. Basically, it's a computer program, or sometimes it's a hardware design as well. Can you give him an example where there is an algorithm in hardware design around you? Any algorithm which you find which is built on the hardware itself? Yes, anyone? Mouse, right? Yes, what are the thought about the other people? Any device which actually contains the hardware built algorithm. Just try to observe the things around you. You will find number of devices So you have to tell me at least one. Right. So you have all your smart appliances like your washing machine. It has its own algorithm, but it is built on the hardware only. So you are not going to start any computer to start a washing machine. So you don't require a computer to start or to function washing machine, or let's say smart refrigerator. All your smart appliances, home appliances, contains the inbuilt hardware algorithm. So this is how it appears. It's not necessary that algorithm is always in form of your computer program or a flow chart which you have studied. It can be a hardware embedded algorithm as well. That is what it means. So that was about the basic of algorithm. Now next term in your which is to be understood is called analysis. Now what do we mean by analyze? Obviously this word is being used multiple times and you all know the meaning of it. So but here the context is to analyze an algorithm means to predict the resources that algorithm requires. Now, what do we mean by resources? That is to be understood. So, we have already discussed two of them, that is a memory. Because you are talking about the computational algorithms, this will run on a computer. So, that particular execution will require some memory. So, that is the first resource. Then, if it communicates with the external world or external devices, then it will use the network. So that communication bandwidth is another resource which that particular program or algorithm will consume. Then if it's based on some hardware circuit or something like that, then you have logic gates, and there are many resources which algorithm can be consuming. But we don't worry about every resource. What we are partially or principally concerned is with only two resources. One is a space and second is time. So space means a memory and time means the computational time. How much time that particular algorithm will take if we execute it on a processor. So that is what our primary concern. So when we say we are analyzing an algorithm, it means that we are actually computing or predicting the space and time requirement of that algorithm. Obviously, there is a way to do it, and we will be studying those things, but this is what do we mean by analyzing. Analyzing algorithm means that predicting the resources, specifically space and time. Now, this analysis can be done in two mechanisms. One is you do the analysis before you actually execute the algorithm, and second, you do the analysis after you have executed the algorithm. Those who are fond of watching cricket matches, they can easily understand what do we mean by performance analysis and performance measurement. Before every cricket match, you will have some extra drive or a cover drive or something like that, where the anchors will come and they will try to discuss a few things. What is the weather conditions, what is the performance or what is the player's performance on that particular ground, and so many things they will be discussing. So these all comes under the category of performance analysis. They are priori estimates. What is the behavior of pitch? They all discuss that the first inning score on this particular pitch in a day match is average is let's say 300. So what it means that till that particular match, they will take all the data from previous matches, all the day matches, and first inning score of that particular matches is 300. So all those things are actually a prior estimates. You have not started with the cricket match yet, but still you are making some predictions, you are making some assumptions, or you are trying to say something, or you are trying to put something about the final outcome of that particular match. So that's why you say that India is a favorite on this ground, because they have these players who are performing very well, etc., etc. So there are lots of things. So that favorite means that you are actually predicting the outcome, that who is going to win this match. But that is based on prior estimates. You have not executed the algorithm. That means the cricket match is not yet started. So that was about the prior estimate. So before executing the actual algorithm, you are trying to make the predictions. That is what we mean by that prior estimates. Mainly there are two types of analysis to do this. One is asymptotic analysis, and second is mathematical analysis. Now, what do we mean by asymptotic analysis? As the name suggests, it's asymptotic. Asymptotic means that it's very near to what it actually is. So you are not actually very much accurate in this type of analysis, but it gives you some of the fundamental characteristic of that algorithm. So fundamental characteristic in terms of time and space requirement. So based on some prior study. So that is what it means. Tell something fundamental about running type of an algorithm. Now, when you say it's a fundamental thing, it means that it is independent on the characteristic of machine use. Machine means the computer on which this algorithm is going to be executed. Obviously, if this analysis will tell you that this requires this much memory and this much time. So that time and space or the memory will be independent of the machine or the computer on which that particular algorithm will be executed. We'll try to understand what it means. Overall, this type of analysis is not precise, but it's very effective because the computation of that analysis is relatively simple. Whereas there is another type of analysis which is called a mathematical analysis. Now, this is more accurate method because it gives you the more precise values of what will be the running type of this algorithm or what will be the actual space requirement. So the results or the values or the outcomes which you are getting via this method are more precise, more accurate, but the only concern is that mathematical modeling for every problem statement, it may differ. So you might have to use a different mathematical tool for different problem statement, and that creates a complications. So it is a precise, it gives you the precise results, but usually we don't prefer mathematical analysis because it's very complicated and it is not easily applicable to every problem statement. In this particular subject, we will be focused on asymptotic analysis only. We are not going to discuss anything about mathematical analysis of any algorithm. So all the analysis will be based on asymptotic analysis purpose. So that was about prior estimates of the resources which any algorithm will require. Next is performance measurements. Obviously, once the match has started and match has finished, result is in front of you. How the pitch has behaved, how that weather has behaved, how the player have performed, everything is in front of you. So now you will basically do some measurements and then you try to derive some observations out of it, and that is your outcome. So how exactly the team has performed, how exactly the player has performed. So that is also analysis. Usually we don't do, when we analyze an algorithm, we don't analyze its performance measurement. We actually do the performance analysis only, and that is also asymptotic analysis only, because once you have executed the thing, there are some problem statement in which you might require these performance measurements as well, that you will actually implement the algorithm and you will execute it, and then you will measure, okay, these are the results. That's why this algorithm is better than this one, based on the results which it is been giving you. So morely it used in the research kind of a work where actually you are comparing two algorithms, but computational, and you are more worried about or you want a more precise difference rather than just the estimate. You want more precise outcomes, that how the algorithm will going to behave. Then you require to perform these performance measurements. Obviously it requires the implementation of that algorithm. Okay, so that was about how do we analyze any algorithm. We have discussed that there are two ways to do it. First, before, or do you do it after? This course is more targeting the first part, that is the analyzing doing before execution of the algorithm, prior estimates. And again, for that also you have two options, asymptotic and mathematical. So this course is focusing on asymptotic analysis only. So that was about how do we analyze and what do we mean by actual analysis. Now we have discussed that our principal concern is with two areas only, that is space and time. And we need to compute how much space it requires or how much time any algorithm requires. So for that, obviously you require some matrix, and that matrix is given in form of a space complexity. For example, if you want to measure the length of a road, then you require a unit like kilometer. So similarly, if you want to measure the space required by that particular algorithm, then you require a space complexity. The space complexity is basically a measure of calculating the space requirement of any given algorithm. And that's why space complexity is actually the amount of memory which is required. Now, to understand it, let us first focus on this example. Don't look at the equation above it. So this example gives you that there is an algorithm called sum, which takes three input. One is A, second is B, and third is C. The objective of this particular function, remember this algorithm function, they are similar type of word. Basically, you are writing a function to run an algorithm. That's what I can explain you within a single line. Function is more kind of a language specific word, and algorithm is a more logic specific word. So you have different functions on for a bubble sort on C language, Python language, Java language. But the algorithm for bubble sort will be the same, whether it's a C, Java, or Python, because inherent logic of bubble sort will be same. So the algorithm represents the inherent logic. Function is actually a form which actually converts that inherent logic into the executable form. The reason I am telling you a function, because you are more familiar with that. That's why. Otherwise, this is actually an algorithm. So you have an algorithm which takes three input. One is A, second is B, and third is C. So obviously you can understand that these are the three variables which are required by any algorithm. And then you are doing the summation. So A plus B plus C. You are not storing that summation anywhere in another variable. You are directly returning that value. So now if I want to compute the space required by this particular algorithm, I first need to identify who is consuming the space, or which type or which part of an algorithm is consuming the space. Mainly space is consumed by two things. One is the data on which algorithm is executing, and the second is the code which is required to execute an algorithm. The data part is a variable, the code part is fixed. So most of the time, any space complexity equation, you will have these two parts. One is C, that is a constant part, and second is SP, that is a variable part. C represents the fixed part which is required independent of your characteristic of your input. So whatever may be your input, this will be always there. C, that is a fixed part. Whereas a variable part, SP, means that it depends on the problem instance. It will be more clear when we take an example of something like array. Here there is no variable part, here there is only fixed part, because your input characteristic it such only. So here, if you observe now this algorithm, you require a space for storing three variables A, B and C. And here when we write or when we calculate the space complexity, we don't worry about the type of that variable. So whether it's an integer, whether it's a float, whether it's a double, because each of these requires a different memory storage. Integer requires 2 byte, float requires 4, if you consider a C language. And then on some platform, it requires, if double is there, it requires 8 bytes. Here we are not concerned about the type, that means whether it's an integer, double or float, we will consider it as a single unit. So here, any space consumed is in form of a single unit only. Remember, we are doing an asymptotic analysis, so it might not be accurate, it might not be precise, but it is very simple and it is very much efficient when it comes to the analyzing the space complexity. So don't worry about the type of the variable, just try to figure out whether it's a scalar variable or a vector variable. Scalar means which holds a single value, vector means which holds the multiple value. Here A, B and C, all of them are holding a single value only. So A will have some value, B will have another value, C will have another value. So they are a scalar variable, that means each variable will require a 1 unit. So if you add these three together, it requires a 3 unit. So that means the space complexity of this algorithm is 3. Let us discuss some more algorithms and to calculate the space complexity. Now let's say instead of having a single algorithm which takes 3 input, now I want to make it more general. So instead of this 3 input, it can be 3, 4, 5, it can be 100 as well. So now what I require an array of input. So now my algorithm name has changed. Let's say it's an iterative sum. So I sum. Then there are 2 parameters or 2 inputs. First is A and second is N. A represents the list of input or a list of values, so that means it's an array, and N represents what is the size of it. So what is the size of that particular array? So size is 10, size is 100, size is 1 lakh, 1 million, whatever it can be. So that gives you the that will actually help you to actually perform the sum value. So now if I want to add all the elements of that array, it's a very simple logic. You will take one variable sum which is initialized to 0, and then you will have a loop which will traverse through every element of array. So you will start a loop from 1 and you will go till the last element. Now last element means that you will reach till the end of the array, and that is can be represented by size n. So that's why you will require a loop, while loop or a for loop. So you will start from the first element, you will go till the last element, and what you are going to do, you will add the value of that element. So a of I is the value of ith element to the sum, and that will be incremented every time. So finally at the end you will get this sum value, which is actually the summation of all the values which is being specified within that array. So I hope the algorithm is clear. It's very simple. You might be thinking that in a C program, we write 0 to n minus 1. But remember, this is not a program, this is an algorithm. And in algorithm, your index always starts with 1. Whereas in program, your index always starts with 0. So that is the adjustment you need to make whenever you are converting your algorithm into the program. Okay. So here, you will start from the first element, you will go till the last element, and you add every element to your resultant variable, that is S. Now let us try to look at this algorithm and try to figure out the space requirement. As I told you, you need to find out first what are the variables. So here, how many variables in this algorithm? Yes, anyone? How many variables? Yes, Sneh?
Yes, sir, 3 variables are. Because if is the array, so it runs from the I and size starting from 1. So
See, if you observe this carefully, Madhu, I will come to you for their question. If you observe this carefully, you have first variable, that is A, right? Then you have second variable, that is N. Then you have third variable, that is S. And then you have fourth variable, that is I. So you will not find any other variable in this. So basically there are 4 variables. That is the first thing which you should identify. Second thing, you should identify what is the type of that variable. Type, I am not meaning integer, float, etc. By type, I means that whether it's a scalar thing or a vector thing. Scalar means something which holds a single value. Vector means something which holds the multiple values. So A is an array. Array always contains multiple values. So A is basically a vector element. N. What is N?
Scalar.
It's a
Scalar.
scalar because N is a size. Size means it can be 10, it can be 15, it can be 20, it can be 100. But it cannot be both 10 and 100. Size can be only a single value. Then you have S. Scalar or vector?
Vector.
No, it's scalar because ultimately you are adding some value to 0 every time. So every time you will have only single value of S. Initially you will have value of S as 0. Then let's say your array is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So initially your value of S will be 0. You will add first element of array to S. So it S becomes 1. Then S becomes 2. Then S becomes 3. Then 4. Then 5. Whatever it may be. Whatever it be the addition. The point over here is at any instance of a time, you will have only one value for S. You will not have multiple value of S. However, during the course of execution of the algorithm, that value may change. So initially that value was 0, then it became 1, then it became 2, 3, it may be anything. But at any point of time, at any instance of a time, your S will be always having a single value. At any point of time, your A will always have multiple value because it's an array. So that's why A is a vector, N is scalar, S is also scalar, and with the same logic, I is also scalar. So how many scalar variable now? You have one N, second S, and third is I. So obviously it requires 3 unit, and then you have a vector variable. The space complexity of a vector variable depends on the size of that vector. What is the size of A?
N.
N. So that means if I want to store A into a memory, then I require N units. Are you getting? If I want to store an array of 10 elements, then I require 10 space in a memory, 10 units of a memory. So that's why size of A is N. So that's why the space complexity for this algorithm is N, that is a size required for A, and then 3, that is a size required for storing value of N, S, and I. I hope this is clear. Any doubt?
Sir, please can you explain why પેલું n વાળું હતું ને તે?
Sorry?
Sir, પેલું sp is equal to n plus 3 છે ને તો તેમાં સ્કેલર વેરિયેબલ ખબર પડી ગઈ 3 વાળું વેરિયેબલ છે. પણ પેલું n વાળો હજી ડાઉટ ક્લિયર નહીં થયું.
So n basically, what is the size of A? See, there are 4 variables. First thing we have identified, there are 4 variables: A, N, S, and I. Right? All scalar variables requires a single unit. So that means you require 1 unit for S, 1 for I, and 1 for N. So that will make it 3. Then remains A. Right? The only thing which is remained is A. Then you have to add the size which is required by A. Now, how to get the size required by A? That depends on the size of array. And what is the size of array? It's n. So that's why it is n plus 3. So that's why it is the size of A plus size of S, I, and n. That's why it's n plus 3.
Okay, sir, clear.
Regarding the loop which starts from 0, I should say no. Algorithm should never start with 0, because algorithm is a logic. In logic, when you say there is a vector or when you say there is an iteration always starts with the first iteration. It never starts with the 0th iteration. So for a logic perspective, the loop in the algorithm never starts with 0 actually. It always starts with 1. If it is starting with a first value, then first value is always going to be 1. That was with respect to the question which is being asked by Madhu. Okay. So that was about this second case. Now let us add more complexity to that. Instead of running a loop, let us try to do it using a recursion. So now, let me first give you the introduction about recursion. Recursion means basically a function calling itself. So you are writing some algorithm, but you have written an algorithm in such a way that it requires or it uses the outcomes or the output of the same algorithm with some smaller instance. So let me give you an example. If you want to add 100 numbers in array, so one approach, you will start from the first number and you just traverse through all the numbers and add it. So that is the approach which has been discussed in this one. Let's say another approach. If you want to add the number from 1 to 100, then can I say that the summation of 1 to 100 is actually summation of 1 to 99 plus 100th value? Can I say this? If I want to add 10 numbers in an array, what I'm saying is summation of 10 numbers is actually summation of 1 to 9 plus 10th number. Again, if I want to calculate summation of 1 to 9, I can say that summation of 1 to 9 is actually 1 to 8 plus 9th number. So using that concept only, you can write an algorithm like this. So you have R sum, you takes 2 parameter A and N. Forget about this if else now. Just focus on this last line. What you are writing over here. Return R sum. R sum means you are calling the same algorithm again. But now the parameter is changed. First parameter is same A and second parameter is N minus 1. I think it's 12 p.m. and I should stop here because you will have the another lecture. So we'll continue with our discussion in the next class.